Hello guys, and welcome to Miss Winter's digital portrait tutorial. Today what we're going to be looking at is how to open up your images in Photoshop, how to use a color palette to select colors for your portrait, and then how to use layers and the different pencil and brush tools to create a portrait. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to find where your digital image is saved. So this will be the picture that we either took in class or an image that you have taken yourself. So I'm going to try and find where I have saved my own now. Here we go. And I'm just going to open that in Photoshop. So here is a picture I took of me earlier in the week. And then here is a color palette that I'm going to be using throughout the production of the digital portrait. So the good thing about having a color palette is because I can use this eyedropper tool here to select any of the colors from it that I want to use. And this just means I can select the exact same colors each time, and I'm using colors that are going to work really nicely together for my portrait. So the first thing I want you to do, step one, is to create a new layer. And where we do this is on the layers panel here. There are a series of different lines, and I want you to click on that and then go new layer, and this is going to be our background layer. And in this background layer, we're going to paint it completely white. So we're going to select the pencil tool, and we are going to use the square brackets just to make it a little bit larger. And we're going to paint the entire thing white. Now, just at the moment, what we're going to do is reveal the image underneath. So to get rid of something but not delete it, you can click on the eye here, and it just hides that layer for the time being. And we can now see this layer and build up on it. So I want you guys to double click on that so it's no longer a locked layer. And this means that we can sort of slide it where we want to place it. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to create another new layer, and it is going to be called your face layer. And so I'm going to come back here, and using the eyedropper tool, I'm going to select this color for my face. And now what I'm going to do is just get the brush tool, or I'm actually going to use the pencil tool this time. And I'm going to zoom in, and really carefully, I'm just going to paint over my face. Now it needs to be on a separate layer, otherwise you will just be painting over the photograph, and then when you come to delete the photograph later, you'll realize that your whole drawing was on the photograph layer, and it'll be something you need to start again. So you don't really want to do that. You want to make sure that you're doing it properly from the beginning. So this needs to be on a separate layer called your face layer. Now while you're drawing, if you want to make sure that you can see that you're going over the right areas, what you can do is on each layer you can turn down the opacity so that you can see the image beneath it. So as we can see here, I've probably gone a little bit too big on this side of the face here, and there's parts of the hair that I have probably covered up with my face. So what you can do is, and usually there are tools hidden under these other tools. So what we need to do is we need to find the eraser tool, which I believe is here somewhere. There we go. And then using the eraser tool, you can just get rid of the parts that you no longer want on your drawing. Now you do want to leave a little bit of overlap where the skin is and the hair, because later on you want to make sure that when you're doing your hair layer that it doesn't look like there's a big gap between your hair and your skin. You do want there to be like a little bit of overlap. Alright, so I'm happy with how that face is looking, so I'm going to turn the opacity back up. And now what I'm going to do is do a new layer, and it's going to be my neck. So I'm going to go new layer, neck, and I'm going to come back here and I'm going to select this darker tone for the skin of my neck. And then using the pencil tool again, which you can select by clicking on the toolbar over here or just pressing the shortcut B, I'm just going to create this sort of neck area. Now you don't have to copy it exactly as your picture is. You sort of like can use your own imagination with it as well, because I kind of want to create something that will be able to look like it's sort of floating on its own and doesn't need the rest of my body to look like it makes sense. Now once you've done your neck layer, I know what you're thinking, Miss Winter, the neck is covering my face. This looks ridiculous. So what you're going to do is you're going to hold down on it and drag it below the face layer, so now it's sitting behind that. And I also want you to drag on your background layer and hide it behind the neck and turn that on, so now you can kind of see how your image is building up. And I can see on my neck layer here I need to add in just a little bit extra, like that. Oh, actually that doesn't look very good. Get rid of that. So if you make a mistake as you go, Control Z is just a really quick shortcut. You can take one step back. Otherwise you have to go edit, and then you can undo the things that you've done manually. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to reveal my face again. And now what I'm going to do is turn these layers off. And the next layer that I think I'll do will be my eyes and my lips. So again, I'm just going to go new layer, eyes. And I'm going to get the white tool, like color, and using the pencil, I'm just going to trace over where my eyeballs are. And just remember, sometimes when you do the shapes, they're not going to work the first time. Just practicing, making sure that you get it done properly. And again, so a shortcut. So if you look down on your keyboard, you've got your normal brackets, which are above your 9 and your 0, but you also have these things called square brackets, which are on the row down on your keyboard. So the square brackets are a really good shortcut using Photoshop to make your brushes and your pencils bigger or smaller. So the left square bracket makes your brush or your pencil smaller, and the right one makes it larger. So when you get in the real flow of doing this, rather than having to click up here all the time to change your brush sizes, you can just press those brackets. So if you hear a lot of tapping, it's just me changing the size of my brush. All right, so I have my eyes on. I know this looks very creepy, so let's turn on our other layers. And as you can see, the face is starting to form. So I'm going to turn those other things back off. And what I'm also going to do now is really just turn down the opacity on those eyeballs. I'm going to make actually I won't make a new layer. I'll add it on top of this. So what I want to do now is pick a color for my eyes. So I think my eyes will be this kind of like dark navy color. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my circle tool, oh, it's pretty much perfect, the exact size of that, and just click on the eye and do it on this one too. And then what I'm going to do is make it a little bit smaller, and I'm going to make it white again. And all I'm going to do is use 2 smaller circles to make the actual eyeball and the pupil. So I'm going to click like this and then make it a little bit smaller. And this next dot is just for where the eyeball is being hit by light. So if we zoom out and we turn the opacity back up to 100%, boom, eyes. What do you reckon? Yeah, I think so too. So the next thing we're going to do is add in all of the detail on our face. So I'm going to use that same navy color, I think. So I'm just going to go and press I, which is the shortcut for the eyedropper tool. And I'm going to make a new layer, and it's going to be called details. So what I'm going to do with details is I'm going to draw in my nose, and I'm also going to draw in my eyelid and some eyelashes as well. So for that, I'm going to press the shortcut B, which gets the pencil tool back up, and I am just going to do a really small line for the side of my nose. So remember, you don't always have to draw in all different parts of your features. You can just select small bits of them just to give the impression of where your nose is, rather than drawing every tiny detail. Sometimes it can look a little bit more interesting when the person looking at it has to really think about it as well. So for example, oops, I just realized I need to move that up. See how my nose is just made up of 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. And I actually don't like that line there, so what I'm going to do is get the eraser and get rid of that, and then turn these off, and I'll just draw that part again. So I think instead I'll create like a little line like that, and I'll zoom out. Yeah, that's much better. Okay, and now I'm going to add in my eyelashes. So I also want to see where the eyeballs actually sit, so that I can make sure it doesn't overlap. I'm just going to draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I also want to add in my eyelid, because it's little details like that that will make your portrait look really interesting and I think realistic, but still sort of done in a cartoonist style. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the curve of the eyelid. So now if we turn the face layer back on, you can see that the actual face is starting to really form now. So obviously I don't have a mouth, I don't have eyebrows, I don't have hair, but I'm pretty much closer to being a human than I was just before. So what I'm going to do is move this layer just behind the eyes so that any overlap here will be hidden. Oh, look at that. Look at that neck just sitting in there. Excellent. Okay, now what other details do I need to add in? That's fine for that layer. Now what I'm going to do is do the lips. So I'm going to make a new layer and call it my lip layer. And what color for the lips? I think there's only one color on here that is appropriate, which is this red color. So I'll get that up. I'm going to zoom in. And just remember, you need to do this. Each of these needs to be done on their own separate layer. Otherwise, if you make a mistake, it's a lot harder to sort of go back in and delete sections. So if you have them each part of the drawing on a different layer, it just makes it much easier if you make a mistake. Not that I think you're going to make a mistake, but I've just made 6 mistakes on the lips and another one, 7. There we go. So what I'm going to do for this part is just outline the lips, and then I'll show you how to use the selection tool to select them. And then, so the selection tool is this, it's a magic wand. And I'm just going to select in that area now and then get my brush again, or my pencil, and make it really big and just fill in that whole area. Done. Okay. So if we zoom out now and we turn all our other layers on, yes, we have an actual face. This is looking great. All right. Now I need to make sure that there is like a little bit of a line in my lips here, just to show where the top one divides from the bottom. So I'm going to turn the opacity down. And we'll make a new layer called lip line. Now this is a detail I'm going to add in, but you absolutely don't have to do that if you don't want to. It's completely up to you. I'm just going to make it a little bit darker than the other lip. If you want to go for a style that looks really bold, really crazy, really interesting, that's completely fine, and I'm totally down for that. I just kind of want to do this so it doesn't look like I have one gigantic chunky lip. And then if we turn this back up, yes, so see how I've got this definition now between my top and my bottom lip? That's exactly what we want. And I'm just going to erase this side part here. Oops, wrong part. And so if we turn back all of our layers, we can now see that I've got my face, my eyes, my nose, my lips, my neck sorted. So the next thing I really need to add is my hair on my face, and I also really desperately need to add in my eyebrows, because otherwise I will look very strange and no one will recognize me. So I'm going to go back. Woo! It's quite a contrast, isn't it, when you take away all the layers? So I'm going to add in some eyebrows now. So what color should my hair be, do you think? Blue hair? I quite like the idea of having blue hair, maybe like this kind of blue. All right, so we get the eyedropper, which the shortcut is I, and I am now just going to move my eyebrows to the very, very top, and I am going to, where's my brush gone? There you go. Nope. Can we see it? Oh, it's so small. All right, so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, and I'm going to start painting my eyebrows on. Woo! Okay, I think that might be a little bit too much. So now see, I quite like this part, but not this. So I'm just going to delete that part and come back here. Like that. Excellent. And then I'll just fill that in. And now the second part, oh, the hardest part is always doing the next eye, because, or even like before when you're doing 2 eyes, because you want them to look symmetrical, but they don't always. So we're going to just trace over this. Oh, that was terrible. I might start from this end. Like that. How weird do eyebrows look when you're staring at them up close? Quite weird. Like that. And then I'm just going to make the brush a little bit bigger. Or sorry, the pencil a little bit bigger. And I'm going to fill that in. Like this. Now guys, I'm just doing this all with my trackpad. Now, as many of you have probably seen in class, I've got a pretty big one, so it does give me a lot of room to sort of move around. If you've got a smaller trackpad, the best thing I recommend doing is zooming in closer on your image so that you have that control over the lines that you're creating and that you can do this without a pen. If you do have a Surface Pro pen, that is awesome and it's going to help you out so much during this process. Now, what do you think of my eyebrows? I think to truly see them, we're going to have to turn back on all the other layers. Oh, a person appears. Now I'm looking at this image and I'm starting to think that I might have to add some lines around my eye just to make sure that that doesn't look so different than everything else. So what I'm going to go and do now is I'm going to go back to my detail layer and I'm going to bring it up and I'm going to turn off everything else. And I'm just going to add in some lines around my eyes. Yeah, I think that looks a lot better. Okay, so I'm going to do that for the other eye now too. And then if we zoom back out and we turn back on our other layers and then we turn up the opacity on the eye layer, now we really have something. So I think that's starting to look much better. But you know what? I think it's time for me to get a little bit of hair. So I'm going to get the eyedropper tool, which is just eye, and I'm going to click on my eyebrows because that's the same color hair I'm going to add. And I'm going to make a new layer and I'm going to call it back hair. Now I'm not talking about me having hair on my back. I'm talking about the hair that's going to sit behind my head, because we can move these layers around, I can move that hair to the back here, and I'll show you in a minute, but I just want to get it drawn first. So I'm going to get the pencil tool, which is B, and I'm going to just draw a really kind of like rough, kind of wavy, fun lines like this. See how it kind of comes out like that? Beautiful. And I'm just going to make my brush bigger now. And I'm going to completely cover my whole face. I know what you're thinking. You're like, Miss, what are you doing, you lunatic? Trust me. You got to trust me, okay? So, I know what you're thinking. What is going on? This looks outrageous. It kind of is outrageous, I agree. So what I'm going to do is turn on all the other layers. And you can't really see them. But if we click on the back hair layer and we move it down to the bottom, I now have hair sitting behind my neck, which is really great, okay? But I have this big part of my forehead that needs to have hair on it too. So what I'm gonna do again is just turn off those layers and make a new layer at the top here called front hair. And I'm gonna get my brush again. And this is when I start adding the hair on the front. So there'll be like a little bit here. There'll probably be a little bit here as well. And then I'll have it, of course, here. And then what I can do is turn on my other layers, and then I can see, so I need to fill it in there and I need to fill it in there. So I'm, whoops, I accidentally just locked it. I'm gonna zoom in and fill it in all these areas like this. And you can see now that it really is starting to look a lot like the Miss Winter you have all come to know and understand. So I'm just going to fill in a little bit around here to just trust my sort of like instinct on this and just fill in specific areas that I think I might usually have a few curls overlapping other parts of my face. So if we turn it off, you can see, so I think that's starting to look really good. Now, I'm not really sure what's going on at the bottom here, so I might even, what I'm going to do with this back hair, oh, isn't that interesting? So what you can do to duplicate a layer so that you can practice on it and you don't necessarily have to worry about making mistakes, you can either press Control-J like this, and so you see now I have a copy of it, or you can click on it and go duplicate layer. And now what I'm going to do is just turn this one off. And I'm going to get the eraser tool, and what I actually want to do for this back part is I want to erase a whole bunch here, or even just like here, because what I want it to do is like sweep around and down. Okay, so I'm going to get the pencil. And now I'm going to turn off all my layers again. Oh, except for the top hair layer. And the next thing I'm going to add in is my glasses, because I need them to see. So I want to make sure that they're visible in my portrait. So I'm going to go new layer. And because my glasses are clear, I'm going to just get a white color for the minute. And I'm just going to color it in white. And then what I want to show you guys is how you can use the opacity tool to just show that it's not necessarily flat white, but actually white. And my glasses aren't glass. They're made of plastic, except for the lenses in them, which I'm hopefully fairly certain is made of glass. So I'm just going to go over it almost entirely in solid white. And then I will show you how to use the opacity tool to just make it look like the glass is, or the plastic is see-through. Okay, so I've got my glasses drawn now, and what I'd really like to do is just turn all my layers back on so I can see how they look. So I think that looks really great. Works with the hair. The color palette is really working. Oh, whoops, I turned on too much hair. I actually think I don't mind the extra hair now. Maybe I should add more of my body into this or something to just make it work. Actually, that's a really great idea. We'll come to that next. So what I'm going to do now is just show you how to change the opacity. So obviously my glasses are clear. So what I can do is slide the opacity down so you can actually see through my glasses and they're not as dominant in the actual design. Now, another thing I want to just show you. So say, for example, if I decided I wanted to make my glasses green, I could get the eyedropper tool and select the green that I wanted, and then I can select this thing here, which is the magic wand. So again, the shortcut is W, and I can click on them, and then just with the pencil I paint over them in the color that I want to change it to in that area, and it will change it for me. Now I actually think it looks quite cool, and considering my hair is not actually blue in real life, it could be cool to just have a color of glasses that is not true to life as well. So I think I'll leave it at that, and then I might get the red again, and I might just add in the top of my dress so that the hair doesn't look as strange. So what I'll do, oh, and in fact I didn't even follow the way that the hair falls the same way. So what I'm going to do is make a new layer, and I'm going to call this dress, and I'm just going to add in, now this might look really terrible, and then we'll just delete it, and that is why we do it on separate layers, so that it doesn't really affect the final or what we're doing, and we can get rid of things if they don't look good. So we'll just color that in, and we'll see how that looks. And I might do it like really rough so that it has a kind of like cool, like a cool rough, like relaxed gal who's just like, yeah, whatever. Miss Winter stuff. And I'm just gonna, all right, so let's just do that for now. And if we put it, it'd need to be, I think, in front of the neck. So if we just turn all of our layers back on, I don't know, what do you guys think? I think I might need to put some hair in front of it, like on the other, on the actual image. So let's get the front hair happening, and we'll turn everything else off. We'll get the eyedropper, steal that color, and then on that front hair we'll just add in some hair in front of everything else. I got my hair, everything seems to be in order. So just some extra details that I would like to add to this. I'd really like to just add in some curly parts of my hair, because I think just having some extra details for the curls in my hair would be pretty cool. So I'm going to add that in a second, and I don't know, I think that could pretty much wrap it up for us. So I'll make a new layer, and this will be called Curl Details. So we'll get a slightly different blue. I think we might pinch this one. And with the pencil, again, we're going to make it much, much, much smaller. I'm just going to turn off the rest of these layers so I can really see what's going on here. Isn't it crazy now looking at this compared to my digital version of myself? So I am just going to make sure that these curls that I'm drawing in, all the kind of curly lines. So it's just going to be, for now, it's just going to be some cool, crazy, wavy lines. Just to show where I have kind of curly, crazy hair. And I'm just going to use this to highlight my outrageously curly hair. So I know what you're thinking. What, Miss Winter? This looks weird. It's alright. Trust the system. Trust the process. It'll work out. So I'm just going to add in a few more crazy curls. So anyone else in the class that has curly hair, this is a fun kind of way you can really emphasize those curls. Now let's just turn our stuff back on to see how we're going. Now what? That looks crazy. Now I think that looks cool, but the actual curls themselves are quite dark. Now, if you'll notice too, this piece of hair is overlapping my glasses. So we can either use that to show that my hair can't even be sort of honed into my glasses, or I could move my glasses in front of it. I actually quite like the look of it in front of my glasses. Now, as we talked about at a different time, what you can do is you can get your wand and you can select these different lines. Oh, whoops, I've got to click on the curls layer. You can select your different curls, and then we could fill them in with a different color. So at the moment, they don't really stand out unless you're really looking at it. And I think that could work quite effectively. But if you also wanted to make sure that they were really obvious, you could make the contrast between the two colors that little bit greater, and then you could just free fill in those curls like this. And let's just have a look. Oh, actually, I think that works much better. So I think that's, yeah, having a higher contrast there would be pretty cool. I'm about to sneeze, get ready. Excuse me. Okay, so I think this could be pretty much, I'm pretty happy with this as a quick tutorial about how to use things. So remember, just adding a different layer for each thing that you're doing, so that when it comes to it, if I don't like the lip line, I just get rid of it. If I don't like how the lips look, I just get rid of them. You can also select both of them at the same time by holding Shift and then go to Command T, and I can literally move my lips around. And I actually think that looks better than where they were just placed. So this gives you the ability to play around with it a lot more, just if they're on their own separate layers. Now, to save this, what you need to do is go File, Save As, and I want you to save it as a PSD, which is a Photoshop file, like we did previously. So we'll call this Miss Winter Example. And then I also want you to save it as a JPEG. Now, something I just noticed is my shirt goes a little bit off the page. So if I wanted to, I could click on all of it and go Command T, and I could just adjust this up the page a little bit like this. And then what I'll do is I'll get the red. One other thing I just noticed I could add as well would be some lines. So I could add in some lines on the shirt here. So I might even use that pink that was in the other layer, and that could just be similar to the hair. It could just add a little bit of extra detail. So you know how if I wear like tartan, or not tartan, but it's like, you know, I wear like it's called gingham, but it's basically like checked shirts and dresses. So what I could do is create that same pattern on here, and it might look terrible, but it's always worth having a shot, because I can just delete the layer if it looks abysmal. So I'm just going to create this, and then I'll start creating my lines going straight across like so. And it's just another texture, and it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, you guys will have a lot more time to work on this than me. I'm just doing this at work. But see how it looks like that? What I can then do is I can click on my dress, and then I'm just going to erase the parts around it. And if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, that's fine. So I think it kind of works, and I might just turn the opacity down a bit so it kind of like blends into it a bit more. Oh yeah, that looks really cool. Okay, so now I'm going to save it again, or I'm just going to go Command S. Save it as a Photoshop file, and now I am going to also save it as a JPEG. And I'll upload this to LMS so you guys can have a look at it. All right, cool. Thanks for watching Miss Winter's tutorial on how to make a digital portrait.